Let's discuss those dynamics then ahead of that address. We bring in our international news editor, Sophie Mokoena. Sophie, a very good afternoon to you. Just on the back of that report by Shaw and Bryce piece, I mean, this will be Trump's first address to Congress since his inauguration. There have been a number of developments, a mere 6 weeks since he took office, a slew of executive orders, as we've just heard, tensions with Ukraine over the war with Russia, the Middle East question, to name but a few. Now, this upcoming address tends to be very domestically focused, but he is expected to touch on both domestic and foreign policy. What can we expect?
Well, I think you are correct. He is inward looking. He is going to speak to the Americans. He's addressing the Americans. But there's no way he is going to ignore the global issues. You know what transpired on Friday, and when he had that meeting with the president of Ukraine, Zelensky, that drama, which he himself characterized as good TV. So we expect good TV today, particularly in relation to the international issues. I mean, drama in terms of what he is going to say about NATO. We can see that the West is fractured as we speak. The questions around NATO holding are being raised because you saw that even though Europe did have that meeting, some countries are saying we are not going to deploy troops to assist in relation to Ukraine. And therefore, he is going to talk to that, and the NATO in particular. You know that the issue of climate change, he doesn't believe in climate change, and he is going to talk about the Paris Agreement. We know that he had indicated earlier on that he's going to pull out of the climate agreement, and we know that he's the man of drill, 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 baby, drill. These are some of the phrases that we can expect tonight. And the issue of tariffs. Last night, he made an announcement that he's going to impose tariffs on Canada and also Mexico, and 25%, and also adding 10% to China. And those countries have also since announced that they are going to retaliate. So there's a lot in terms of what we can expect, including what's happening in the Middle East. And his engagement with President Putin, because I just saw a report that in February he had requested that President Putin must facilitate the negotiations around nuclear agreement or nuclear program with Iran. In other words, he's very close to President Putin, and I think the world will be watching what will be his view again in terms of the relationship with President Putin of the Russian Federation.
Absolutely, Sophie. And I mean, you've mentioned the tariffs on Mexico as well as Canada, with that 25% that's been enacted, as well as Chinese goods to 20%. I mean, I'm going to come back and unpack just what that will likely look like in terms of just the effects of what we're seeing on the war trades, or the trade war. But how likely is he to touch on South Africa? I mean, we know that South Africa was not spared on those executive orders against the country amid those, tensions between South Africa and U.S. relations.
I don't think he is going to single out South Africa. He might talk about countries that he's got reservations against in terms of what they are doing. But I don't think for him right now, South Africa really matters. Not at all. There are too many global, serious challenges. He wants to see an end to the Ukraine war. He wants to communicate a message that no one is going to take advantage of United States of America. He is going to speak to the Americans that since you elected me, I have delivered on promises that I've made, so that he continues to have his constituency behind him. And I think, yes, those groups that went to America to talk about South Africa, it's a small issue to Donald Trump. It's not a big issue to Donald Trump. Donald Trump is now talking Russia, is talking Iran. He is also talking about Middle East, the relationship with NATO. These are massive, big issues. And I think the South African story to him, yes. That's why we don't even see the visuals of these groups or these individuals who went to America to show us these officials from the White House they met, because it wouldn't be senior officials. So I think for him right now, I don't think he's even thinking about South Africa. He's thinking about big issues right now.
And let's talk about some of those big issues. I mean, you speak about a likely show that we can expect in that address tonight. I mean, just listening to one of those analysts in that previous clip speaking about, you know, how a lack of thought goes around the decision that is made in the Trump administration, which is very concerning. I mean, these are fundamental matters that should be taking months, are made at short notice with devastating consequences, as we've seen with the executive orders, including, of course, the cancellation of the much-needed aid. But now we also know that he has put a stop in terms of just assistance on Ukraine. You know, it was a devastating meeting that we saw there in the Oval Office, where the president of Ukraine, Zelensky, was dismissed. Of course, he did not get what he wanted. What are we likely then to see in as far as, you know, the efforts that are being made by European countries just to assist in that particular war?
Well, I think it's very transactional. I mean, when he met Zelensky, he wanted Zelensky to agree to a minerals rights agreement. That's transaction. And also to give America rights to those stacks and stocks of minerals in Ukraine. We now hear that President Vladimir Putin, the president of the Russian Federation, is saying he's willing to give America some of the minerals that are available in America and in Russia, and we know there are many. And therefore, it's very transactional. He's going to stick to that tone of being transactional. We know that the tariffs revolves around transactions. You do this, I do this. So I expect a more firm transactional president, and also a president who wants to prove to the world that I have the nation behind me, my constituency, that supported me, voted for my presidency and with this mandate, and I'm just going to do just that.
All right, Sophie Mokoena, thank you so much for that analysis. Of course, Sophie is the international news editor here at the SABC, just giving us a sense then on what to expect later this evening when US President Donald Trump will tonight address a joint sitting of Congress, his first appearance in the House of Representatives since returning to the White House 6 weeks ago.